2006, 2007, 2008, it was South Africa #1, Uganda #2, Kenya #3.
For 3 years in a row.
For 3 years in a row. Then together with South Africa, we went for the World Cup in 2009. There was no Africa Sevens in 2009, 2010, at least in the South. It returned in 2011. There was a North tournament, which was hosted either by Senegal or Tunisia, and then a South tournament, which was hosted by Botswana. Records don't show it, but that tournament actually happened. And the South tournament was won by South Africa, Uganda was second, and then Kenya was third, Zimbabwe was fourth. So the top 4 teams from South and North qualified for the World Cup qualifiers in Morocco in 2012. And that was the first time you could say that Uganda didn't reach a final in 2012. We finished in 3rd position. Tunisia won the tournament, Kenya was 2nd, then Uganda 3rd. Then you go to 20.
Did South Africa play in that tournament?
No, because they had automatically qualified for the World Cup because they finished top 4 in the 2009 World Cup. They finished 4th.
Okay.
So Tunisia were the ones who represented Africa at that World Cup. 2014 was disaster for Uganda. It was the first time that we dropped out of the top 4, you know. And
that was in Machakos, Kenya.
Yes, that was in Machakos in Kenya. We finished in 5th position. We just beat Madagascar in the last minutes to win that game. It was a disaster for us. We'd never finished out of the top 4, I mean top 3 even, you know. So it wasn't until 2018, the last time for us to be in a final was 2011 in Botswana. We got to the final again in 2018, again in Botswana.
7 years later.
7 years later, yeah. Now, at that point, I retired after the 2014 tournament, and in 2018, I was the head.
What do you think about the tournament, and if any, your memorable moments as coach?
I love the fact that women's game is getting a lot more exposure, and people are actually showing that there is a skill set that is there that really needs to be tapped. Before, the ladies will have possibly 1 tournament in 2 years and then have 1 15th game internationally. And I think it's interesting that they build the endurance. I think it's a very nice tournament to have. We have not had so much success. We've not built the capability to actually compete at that 7th, only because of the lack of consistency. We are now doing it, and I'm glad the ladies are out in Nairobi. Let's go and win it.
This video is interesting because as I was scrolling the internet, I saw an interesting video of Uganda from way back, but clearly this is Chadondo. And if I'm not mistaken, I see a familiar face on this pitch. Coach Koyo, when was this? I know it's Chadondo. Probably was it the Africa Sevens? What tournament was it? Who are we playing against?
This was way back. Possibly, I think that's Zimbabwe. It could be 2008. That was the World Cup qualifier, because I see Christine Kizito there. I'm there. Winnie Atang is there. Brenda Kayi is there. There's Charlotte Mudola was there. Yeah, and that's Winnie actually scoring the try, and then me going to get the ball to do the kick. So yeah, this has brought back memories. Look at those jerseys, so ugly and heavy, but yeah.
The thick cotton jerseys, I
they
love
built your endurance.
I
so
love
because
those
you have
jerseys.
to carry both the jersey and yourself.
But I'll tell you one thing. Winnie Atang had some side steps. Left, right, left, inside, outside, back. What avenues do you see where we can say, if we work on this, if we fix this, life can get better for Africa Women's Sevens? It can become a bigger tournament.
Yeah, we don't play enough tournaments as African teams, and it shows because we don't have any representatives in the top 8. And then whenever South Africa is promoted, they're relegated like pretty much straight away. So it just shows the standard of rugby is not high enough, and we don't play enough tournaments. We need to have a minimum of 2 tournaments a year for it to make sense, but then it shouldn't just be that. I think if we had like smaller regional tournaments first, and then teams maybe qualify from those into now the 2 main tournaments, so that we also have more countries getting to play within the regions and having something to look forward to, then we'd have quite a bit of rugby having been played. And then also the unions need to just find a way to play external competitions. Dubai Sevens would be an ideal one. You know, the invitational part of Dubai Sevens. Yeah. Then also the their tournaments in Europe. Tunisia does well with this. They actually take part. Actually, before, when they're doing really well, they used to take part in quite a number of those tournaments in Europe. Maybe that's why they've gone down, because I don't seem to see them taking part in those tournaments anymore. So that's something we need to do if we're really serious about actually playing, competing, and getting better, as opposed to just ticking the box, we've taken part and that.
If you could tell us the story of those first years of the Rugby Africa Women's Seven, so that our viewers can get to know where this tournament started, what it's been through, and what it's going to look like this year.
Okay. Actually, East Africa came very late to the party when it came to rugby. The North Africans had rugby going on. So initially there was the Africa Sevens, not really Africa Sevens, but there was a tournament involving some African teams. And then there'd also be a team from United Arab Emirates that would play in Tunisia. And among the teams there was Ivory Coast. I remember there's Ivory Coast and Tunisia. I'm not quite sure about the others, but those two definitely used to play, and then a team from United Arab Emirates. And then in 2006, Uganda also was invited, because we had started playing Sevens rugby. We had hosted the Chadondo Sevens, which involved clubs, the top clubs basically in Uganda and Kenya. Then bringing in Burundi, Rwanda as well. And so they were like, okay, so there's actually some good rugby going on in East Africa. So we traveled to Tunisia. And yeah, Tunisia won the tournament. It was a round robin tournament, and they won the tournament simply on points difference. We drew against Tunisia, but they had a higher points difference because they beat Tunisia universities by a higher score. And then the 2006 tournament, Tunisia also was invited for it. So these tournaments were happening, but there would be Africa North, which would involve the West African and North African teams, and then Africa South, which would involve the East African and Southern teams, you know. And South Africa was always the